House of Cards is brought to you by Drizzly, your online liquor store. Available in over 95 cities across North America, Drizzly offers a huge selection and competitive pricing with a side of personalized content. Now there's no need to leave the house. Get alcohol delivered in less than an hour by Drizzly. Head on over to drizzly.com and order today. And now get $5 off your first order of $20 or more when using promo code DRINK19 at checkout. Shop beer, wine, and liquor with drizzly.com.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls,
You're listening to House of Cards.
Today, the game is different.
I want to gamble. Gambling is a very serious business. Is that clear?
Welcome to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you here, deep from the swamps of Jersey. We got a great show coming up for you. You know, people who gamble on sports are always looking for that edge, whether it be by looking at the injury reports, home field records, weather conditions, anything that could give them a little advantage. Our guest this week is taking that to a whole new level. His name is Simon Chokwisky, and he wrote the book called Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology. And you can imagine from the title of the book, he uses astrology and star charts to help determine the outcome of a game. And you know what? He's really good at it. And he's going to go through all his methods of picking the right team at the right time, all according to the stars in the sky. So stick around. We'll be right back with House of Cards.
I owed the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Psst. Yeah, you. Come here. Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
Is your bathroom looking old and worn out? Want to update it, but you don't know where to start? Then let BCI Bath & Shower show you how to turn that old bath into an aisle of beauty and functionality. Our residential bathroom solutions provide the best value on the market, and our customer service is second to none. Our cost-effective BCI Bath & Shower family of products has what you need.
Remodeling our bathroom was a big decision for us.
They didn't make a mess out of our house at all. And at the end of the day, we had a beautiful new bathroom. And it was a great experience the whole way through.
We have the best monthly payment programs in the industry, with payments as low as $68 per month or no interest, no payments for 18 months. For a limited time, be one of the first 100 callers who schedule a free in-home consultation and receive $500 off. Call 1-800-594-9530. 1-800-594-9530. Factory-trained and certified installers made in the USA and discounts for seniors and military. BCI Bath and Shower, the leader in affordable bathroom products.
You're listening to House of Cards. Check out our website at houseofcardsradio.com.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you here. You know, here at the show, we get a lot of interesting books written by a lot of interesting people. For me, this is one of the more fascinating books I've read. The writer is Simon Chokwisky, and the book is Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology. And we are lucky enough to have Simon on the phone with us right now. Simon, thanks for coming on.
Thank you for having me. Appreciate it.
Oh, great. Our pleasure. Just for some background for people out there who are not familiar with it, what is Vedic astrology?
Well, it's just what it sounds like. It's a type of astrology that's mainly practiced in India, and typically it was just for the kings and queens in the old days to help them figure out when is the best time to go into battle, when is the best time to get married. And, one unique thing we as gamblers understand is that timing is very important. You know, you have good days, you have bad days, you have good weeks, good years, and bad years sometimes. And in the old days, people used to wonder, why does that happen? You know, why is it that sometimes someone who is much less skilled than I am can beat me, and on some days, you know, I can take on the world, whether it's at cards or whatever your pursuit. And so they figured out that there was some correlation between what's happening up in the heavens and whether you were having a good day or not. And so that's Vedic astrology. It's the astrology of ancient India that was used to time major events.
You touch on something that I want to ask you. You know, these techniques you stated have been used for thousands of years and in every country of the world. Are you surprised that more people haven't used these techniques with regard to sports and betting?
Yes and no. So in the old days, any science like this or art or superstition, whatever you want to call it, it wouldn't survive until this day if it didn't have some usefulness, some effectiveness. So as I said, in the old days, both in the West and the East, every king, every important person, I should say, had a consultant. Just as today we have financial consultants, we have consultants, real estate agents. Well, there were astrologers. And so they would ask their astrologers, hey, when should I do this? Or is this a good person to be in business with? And if they were wrong, typically what happened was, especially if you're a king, you didn't fire them. You actually banished them. They were done. Their career was over. Or at worst case scenario, they got their head cut off. So if the stuff didn't work, astrology would have disappeared a long time ago. Now, the problem is that it's a complex science, and there are a lot of charlatans out there, and a lot of knuckleheads like me who, get it wrong and miss stuff, and but we still try our best. Mm-hmm. So I think I understand why it's not used today, because it's very difficult. And another thing is, in the old days, the best minds, like the best mathematicians, the most brilliant scientists, they were doing astrology, the Albert Einsteins of the world. Whereas today, there are many more things that brilliant minds can do. They can go into science. They can go into, building rockets and so on. So we've got more average minds doing astrology, and as a result, it's maybe gone down. Mm-hmm. And so that doesn't surprise me.
When you're talking about sports, what are some of the aspects of a game or a team that you look at when using astrology in sports betting?
A sport is a contest. It's a battle. It's a win or a loss. It's black and white. Well, sometimes there's a tie. So and more fundamentally, a contest is a space-time event. That means it begins at a particular place at a particular time, and then it has a lifespan. It lasts an hour or two, or if it's baseball, it can last forever theoretically. But and then typically it has an ending, just like a human being. So if astrology can be applied to a human being, which is, we're also space-time events. We're born in a certain place in a certain time. We have a lifespan, and then, we expire. So it's the same thing. A sporting contest is just like a human being. And if it works for human beings to be able to tell you, hey, you're going to be successful, you're going to do well, or you're not, then it should work for telling us whether the home team or the favorite team should win. So it's just like a battle, except these days the battles happen on the gridiron more often than on the battlefield.
What's intriguing about the book is how you bring the reader along during the process of creating a chart for a particular team or game. And at the start of this process is something called Dharma or Dharma types. What is that, and why is that so important when creating your charts?
Well, and I hate to get philosophical here, but Dharma is your right path. It's your purpose in life. It's your calling. And if it's not your calling to be a speculator, to be a gambler, to be in this field, then my contention is no matter how good you get at techniques, no matter how much you study, it's not really the right thing for you. And you should know that before you get into it. My mentor taught me that the astrologer's job is to put themselves out of business. That means that you take a client and you teach them, you help them find their purpose in life. You help them find their calling. And when you do that, then they don't need you anymore. Your job is done, right? And I've said this before, where I think that's also a doctor's job, traditionally, to take a client, teach them good health, how to eat, how to take care of their body, so that they don't need the doctor anymore. That's a utopian kind of world. But when it comes to gambling, I'm sure you've seen people like this who are well-intentioned, they study, but they're just not, somehow it's not for them. Mm-hmm. And this goes for everything. For boxing, people try to be boxers, but they're just not. And so my job, first of all, is to find out, is speculation right for you? Is it in the stars for you, if you will? Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. So,
and we start from there. And some people from very early on, they know that's their path, and that's great. And then my job is to help them get better, to help them find the better times to go to the casino, the better times to enter that tournament. But we know that they're in alignment. Mm-hmm. And so that's what that chapter is about.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Attention seniors with Medicare. This is an important announcement. Did you know you may qualify for a monthly Social Security rebate? Did you know you may qualify for a $0 monthly premium? That's right. You may qualify to get $135 added back to your Social Security check each month. Just call the Medicare benefits line to get your options. It's a free call. You may also qualify for $0 premiums, dental coverage, vision coverage, hearing coverage, and prescription drug coverage. With this type of plan, you don't need Medicare supplement insurance. Call now because you deserve to get the most from your Medicare benefits, including a rebate to your Social Security check each month. Agents are standing by with free information regarding Medicare benefits. It's a free call with no obligation, but it could mean big savings for you. Call the Medicare Benefits line now to see if you're eligible for a Social Security rebate.
Call 800-574-6770. 800-574-6770.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Can you dig it? Can you dig it? Can you dig it?
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you. For those of you just joining us, we are talking with Simon Chokwisky, who has written a very interesting book called Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology. And another term you use when analyzing a game is something called victory houses. Now, how does the idea of victory houses relate to your analysis?
So in astrology, there's something called houses of the horoscope. There are 12 houses, and each team gets 6 houses that are good for victory, and another 6 that are not good. So it's very simple. When the planets are in the house, in the victory, what I call the victory houses, that's my term, by the way, for one team, and they're not, and by extension, they're not for the other team, then it shows which team is stronger. It's pretty straightforward.
By the way, it's a great term because when I saw victory houses, okay, I need to know this if I'm going to win at sports betting using astrology. I see the word victory and I'm attracted to it.
Well, I got to tell you, I appreciate you saying that because when I took this on, my wife and everybody said, "Who are you writing this book for?" There's only so many astrologers and there's only so many people who bet, and you're writing it for these niches. And I said, you know what? There's something in my heart that's just driving me to do this, and so there it is. So I'm very heartened that you're taking this to heart yourself.
Oh, absolutely. It's one of those things. It's ancient wisdom that's been around for so long, and it's been used around the world. And it's just, I'm surprised that more people aren't embracing this it's from our ancestors, really.
Well, I'll tell you, in the 60s, there was an astrologer in India. His name was Krishnamurti. And he got so good to where he had a line around his house like people were trying to buy an iPhone. Like people would camp out for 2 or 3 days, and the line would stretch around the neighborhood a couple of times. And part of the reason how he got so good was he would play cards. And he would test his techniques by playing cards, and he'd see which times, and he was a decent card player, but, he wasn't the best. And he would play during times that were good for him, and then he would have his son, so he'd calculate this beforehand, and he'd have his son call him as soon as time turned bad to give him an excuse to leave the table. I know that's a crummy thing to do, but, he was testing this. And so, like at 12:31, his son would call and he'd say, "Oh, sorry guys, I got to take my chips and take off." And he got so good that people wouldn't play with him anymore. So he had to start losing on purpose. And this is a true story, by the way. This you can verify this yourself. His name was Krishnamurti, and he developed a system to where he could time even down to the hour, which period is favorable for you, which period isn't. And I'm not as good as I study his system and I try to follow along, but there are brilliant people like that who have got this stuff down really to a science. So yeah, I'm surprised too, but also it's very difficult. Like I said, it was only the best minds in the old days who would do this stuff, and these days, not so much.
For those of you just joining us, we are talking with Simon Chokwisky, who has written a very interesting book called Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology. Okay, now we understand the terms Dharma types and we get the concept of victory houses. As I said, it's a process. What is your next step when trying to determine the outcome of a game using Vedic astrology?
Yeah, that's a good question. So in the book, there are a total of 9 techniques. And so the victory houses is one technique, and that's how I first sort of got into it. But the victory houses move very slowly. So basically any game that starts within an hour or so is going to have the same configuration. And so the victory house technique was working a lot, but it was also not working some of the time. And I thought, why isn't it working? And so there are more discrete techniques that depend on an exact start time. And when I gave predictions last week, I noted that if this game starts within a couple of minutes of when it's supposed to, then we expect this outcome. And the more I did this, the more I found that even seconds can make a difference. And so timing, again, back to this idea that timing is everything. And if you begin playing, or if a game begins at a certain time, a certain outcome is expected. But if it begins a minute later, that outcome could be 180. It can be totally different. It can be for the other team.
How much of a change?
So I figured out some techniques to figure that out.
How much of a change in time is if it happens within an hour, it's pretty much the same, or can it be changed from minute to minute, or how is that determined?
Honestly, it's from minute to minute. And as I mentioned earlier, the most recent example of this was a Cleveland-New York game, baseball, last game of their series, where, in my opinion, if that game had started 1 minute earlier, so if you're the manager and you know that you're supposed to start within this time, that Cleveland would have won, not New York. And by the way, this isn't, I know this sounds crazy and radical, but we spent 8 years under the Reagan administration having his astrologer time absolutely every meeting, every, airplane takeoff and landing according to this principle. And his assistant even had a stopwatch, and he cued Reagan when it was time to begin a press conference, when it was time to begin a meeting. And his whole presidency ran according to this principle. So a very conservative man, but yet someone who understood, or at least went along with this principle that to everything, if you want to succeed at something, starting at the right time really gives you a leg up.
It's amazing.
So sometimes it's even minutes and seconds.
It's amazing how precise that is when you're talking about time, how 1 minute can change an outcome of something so important.
Well, and it's hard to believe because you'll never know, right? Yeah. You'll never know if it's if what the other outcome would have been, except that I've tracked games that have begun at very similar times, maybe a minute apart, and the chart is just different by a minute, and the outcome is the opposite. So I actually have, I have thousands of charts that I've looked at, and I have that data. And this speaks to the question of when most scientists think about astrology and they debunk it, they go, well, look at twins. Sometimes twins lead radically different lives, but they were born just minutes apart. And it's true. They're right. And so sometimes minutes can make a difference, and sometimes twins lead very similar lives. Mm-hmm. And in that case, it didn't make a difference. Mm-hmm.
I guess connected with time is also the location of a sporting event. How much emphasis do you put on the home team versus the visitor when you're creating your chart?
Right. Well, it's 10:45 where I am, and it's before noon. But if you were in Tokyo, it would be night, right? So location is very much linked with time. And as Einstein taught us, space and time are really the same thing. And that's why we call it space-time. So location and time are the two components that are the most important. So yes, absolutely, you need an accurate location for a correct horoscope and an accurate start time.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
the IRS $10,000.
The IRS garnished my wages.
They put a lien on my house.
I'm self-employed and didn't report all my income. They claim I owe a lot more than I do.
The IRS is the most powerful collection agency in the world. They do not give up until you pay.
I couldn't sleep. We were being audited. I called Tax Solutions Now, and a great big weight was lifted off my shoulders.
I called Tax Solutions Now, and they got the IRS off my back.
Tax Solutions Now had my wage garnishment lifted in 48 hours.
Tax Solutions Now can get you help. Our agents know the rules, can stop the pain, and get you the best deal.
Tax Solutions Now saved my business.
I qualified for the Fresh Start program. I paid less than I owed.
We connect you with a team of former IRS agents and tax professionals who get the IRS off your back. Time is running out. Call Tax Solutions now.
Call 800-297-9788. 800-297-9788.
Hey, this is Dave Weishuttle from House of Cards with your House of Cards gaming report for the week of July 5th, 2021. The Las Vegas Strip welcomed its first new property since 2010. The $4.3 billion Resorts World Las Vegas opened its doors last week, 6 years since construction began on the property. The state-of-the-art casino, which has over 3,500 hotel rooms and 40 restaurants, is also equipped with a cashless wagering system, allowing customers to use a mobile app instead of the casino cages. Sports Illustrated announced that the brand is jumping into the sports betting and iGaming business. Authentic Brands Group, the parent company of SI, entered into a deal with 888 Holdings to develop online gaming and sports betting platforms bearing the Sports Illustrated name. The first SI-branded platforms are expected to launch in Colorado later this year. And finally, apparently like everyone else in the world, Phil Ivey is entering the non-fungible token business. The Poker Hall of Famer partnered with Eternity Chain and Impossible Brief to release officially licensed NFTs of some of his greatest moments in his career. These are not the first poker NFTs, because in April, the World Poker Tour announced an NFT collection of some of their greatest moments. I guess I have to check some of these out. Have any news or tips regarding casinos, gaming, or legislation? Send us an email at newsroom@houseofcardsradio.com and follow us on Twitter at HOC Radio.
You're listening to House of Cards.
Your Majesty, the royal wrestlers await.
I'll bet on the little guy. How much? 3,000 guineas, 2 geese, and a duck. That's a foul bet.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishuttle with you. For those of you just joining us, we are talking with Simon Chalkwisky, who has written a very interesting book called Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology. You know, we talked about this with regard to location. We do another show, Turnpike Sports, and you gave some amazing predictions. I mean, I benefited from one of your predictions, by the way. Thank you, Seattle, and thank you, Simon.
Awesome, Dave. That's great.
Yeah, there you go. But when you talk about location, and we talked at another time, you mentioned individual players will perform differently depending on when and where they play. And this led us to be thinking, would it be beneficial for an athlete or a team to consult an astrologer before he signs with a particular team? Do you know of any athletes who actually consulted with astrologers before joining a team?
That is a great question. No, I personally don't. I work with, I don't work with the kings and queens in the world typically, although I've seen a couple of Hollywood, celebrities and whatnot, but typically I work with mom and pop, clients. But in my opinion, the $100 or whatever you spend to consult with an astrologer before making a, multi-million-dollar move or trade is worth it. I mean, it's well worth it. Because, yes, different locations will affect you. So I think even in playing cards, if you go to a tournament in Vegas and, you do well, you may go to a tournament in Jersey or somewhere else and just stink up the room. And part of that could be related to, it may not be, but it's possible that it's related to the fact that in Jersey, you just have bad lines. You've got bad stuff going on there, bad juju for you, so that you don't do as well. And we can identify that.
Oh, great. I'm in Jersey. I feel terrible now.
No. I mean, individuals. So
I know.
You get. By the way, anyone can do this for themselves. There's a site you can go to. I don't know if it's okay to refer. It's not my site. This is a general site, so it's not a plug. It's a site called astro.com. You go to free horoscopes, and then you click on Astro Click Travel, because typically we use this to figure out where people can travel and have a good time and where, areas they should avoid. Click on that, enter your data, and then you'll see all of your lines across the globe. And then anywhere you click, it'll interpret it for you, and it'll tell you, hey, this place is great for business, this place is great for relationships. Like, just a really quick example, I have a client, or I had a client, and her Venus line went through Portland, Maine. And I said, look, Portland, Maine is great for love for you. And she started laughing. I said, why are you laughing? She said, my husband's from Portland, Maine.
Wow.
And she had never been there. But her husband, love, had come to her from Portland, Maine. And likewise, where you have a Jupiter line is where you're lucky. So when it comes to gambling, you want to look to where your Jupiter line is. And so when you find that, go to those places, try it out, see what happens. I've done it. For me, it's through Puerto Rico. And years ago, when I landed in Puerto Rico, I didn't speak Spanish, nothing. And this is a true story. I was on the street corner, and I didn't have any car or anything. There was this guy on a motorcycle. I tapped him on the shoulder. It was a red light. I said, how much you want for that bike? He said, $800. I pulled it out, paid him. He got off the bike, gave me his helmet, and gave me the little thing, the registration. I got on the bike. By the time the light turned green, I was off.
Wow.
And stuff like that happened for me over there, like crazy. Like, I would knock on a door and people would say, come in, we've been waiting for you. We need, I was a physical trainer at the time. We need somebody to help us run the gym. Intercontinental Hotel, I became the manager. Like that.
Wow, boy.
So where your Jupiter line is where you tend to be lucky. And you can find that. It's very easy. It's not difficult. Any of your listeners can find it.
Oh, wow. That's amazing story. I never read a book like the one you've written, Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology, and that uses astrology and its technique for sports betting. I gotta ask you, has this book been well received in the astrology world? Have there been astrologers saying, hey, you shouldn't be using our techniques for gambling purposes, or has it been well received within the industry?
There's a small percentage of astrologers who are a little bit above it all and a little bit high and mighty. And actually I understand where they're coming from, because this is a spiritual science. It's meant to empower people, right? And they have this association that speculation is somehow disempowering. And like I said at the beginning, it can be. If it's not your calling, it can be. You can lose your house, in your mortgage. But it's also gotten some great reviews from some professional astrology magazines. So yes, generally speaking, it's been well received.
Well, we're running out of time, and I want to thank you, Simon, for coming on and discussing this very interesting book you've written. The name of the book is Gambler's Dharma, Sports Betting with Vedic Astrology by Simon Chalkwisky. And check out his website at spirittype.com. Simon, thanks for coming on.
It's been my pleasure, guys. Take care.
Stick around. We'll be right back with more House of Cards.
You're listening to House of Cards.
The answer is probably. We're finished.
What are the odds? 1 in 100?
I don't do odds. I gave very detailed
casinos, sir.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishaupt with you. Sports betting has become popular in the U.S., and people want to know what's going on in the sports books across this country. So Doug Weishaupt is back with the book report. Doug, what do you got?
And welcome to another edition of the book report, where we're going to talk about what's happening in the sports books around the country and also in some cases internationally as well this week. We've got a bunch of interesting news topics here. We got a new state. We got a new country joining the sports betting community. We have a brand new brand becoming a sports betting entity, as well as Bally's continuing their expansion and a sports book launching for the first time out of Nevada. We're going to start off with welcoming Louisiana as the 30th state in this country to legalize sports betting.
Yeah, that was a long time coming. I was waiting for Louisiana, and they finally did it. They pulled the trigger.
Well, they had passed it during the November elections.
Yep.
And just last week, Governor John Bell Edwards signed the bills into law. So they're hoping to have everything up and running by the start of the NFL season.
Which is, what, 2 months?
September 9th, something like that, is the first day that that's usually the target. They're hoping to have it up and running. A lot of states have
That's
also
actually
said
pretty
that's
quick. Good for them.
Well, they've had this stuff in motion since the November election. The different bills set out the different tax rates, the licensing structures. They have everything all set to go. It's just a matter of moving ahead, just like Arizona. Arizona's moving quick, too.
Yep.
They just released some of their published rules. They're going to have some more going ahead, more public committee meetings, but they're shooting for the start of the NFL season, too. Canada. Canada is the brand new country in North America that has legalized sports betting.
Well, they had some form of legal sports betting. I think it was the parlay method, which was for a long time Delaware had that. But now it's, what are they calling it? The single
event sports betting.
Okay, single event sports betting.
It's Canadian Sports Betting Bill C-218 has made it all the way through the initial readings through their parliament. And now, and also, they don't have sports betting up and running yet. The bill allows the provinces to legalize sports betting. Now it's up to the provinces to get moving. From all indications, Ontario is expected to be the first province to be up and running by the start of the NFL season.
Okay.
The other two big provinces, British Columbia and Alberta, they're launching later than Ottawa, Ontario, and probably by early 2022. And what they're saying is by the end of 2022, around 64% of the population of Canada will have access to legal sports betting and also online gaming.
Great. Good for them.
So that's the other thing. I always found it interesting that with the casino industry up in Canada, I'm surprised they didn't have online gaming up until this bill.
Yeah, no, it should be interesting once they get online gaming, because the big thing, especially in the United States, especially with online poker, they have the shared player pools. I wonder if there could be an international agreement between Canada and the U.S. for online poker. It would be absolutely amazing if they did.
Well, it's going to be more interesting to see what Canada does internationally outside of North America, because online poker is still very popular overseas, more so than the United States. You know, we have that situation there where Black Friday happened and everybody was, deemed you couldn't do online poker for a while, and we're just starting to get back into the online poker industry in this country.
Yeah, well, the pandemic really boosted the numbers for online poker and online gaming in the U.S. I mean, living in New Jersey, we have we have online casinos, and we have online poker. And online poker, we have the multi-state compact where I play poker games against people in Nevada while sitting in New Jersey, which is great. The WSOP has that. WSOP.com.
Yes. So, it'll be interesting to see whether or not Canada does international first before they're able to do anything with the United States for online poker. I don't have too much hope that that'll happen very quickly with the United States, the way we approach online poker in this country. But again, welcome Louisiana, welcome Canada. I wish we could welcome even more, but it looks like Maine is a little, stuck in the mud right now. Maybe by the end of the month, something will happen with the legislation there, and it'll go to the governor's desk. But again, everyone's got to remember the Maine governor vetoed it at the last moment last year too, or 2 years ago, in 2019.
I'm fascinated what's happening in Maine. I'm fascinated what's happening in Ohio with sports betting. It just seems like once you think progress is being made, and then the rug is pulled out from under you.
Well, again, it should have happened. I mean, every indication last week it should have happened, and at the last moment, they attached the sports betting to this Veterans ID bill in Ohio. This is Ohio, and everything should have worked out that way. I mean, it set up everything perfectly. And from what I'm reading, they didn't even bother discussing it. They're going to approach it later this month.
Well, we'll see what happens. Like I said, Maine and Ohio are very interesting states when it comes to progress of sports betting. So we'll see.
And don't forget about Florida. Florida's getting interesting. We just had supposedly a ballot initiative that's being pushed by unknown groups, but it looks like FanDuel and DraftKings to have a sports betting amendment added to the Constitution so that it doesn't become exclusive property of the Seminoles down there.
All right, well, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, they're pushing another ballot amendment, signature drive, that sort of thing. Let's see. Going over into, well, I teased at the beginning, we had a brand new brand coming into the sports betting industry, and that is Sports Illustrated.
Yeah, I know. I mean, I really like Sports Illustrated. They actually have a gambling section. I love their analysis. I love their their articles, and it came as it was a surprise to hear you're talking about the deal with 888.
888 Holdings and
it looks like
Authentic Brands Group, which owns Sports Illustrated.
So it looks like he's going to be sports betting, especially online sports betting.
So online sports betting
and iGaming.
Yep,
right. It's not only sports betting, from what I understand.
They're going to be doing two platforms, one for online gaming, one for sports betting with 888. 888 Holdings, I should say. That's the proper name of the company. And they are looking at launching the SI Sportsbook. And, before we get into that, SI has such a following. I think it's been reported their monthly users are around 30 million. So they have a built-in audience for that brand.
Absolutely.
For this book.
I'm one of their readers, so I'd be very interested in seeing what SI has in the offerings of sports betting and, iGaming, too.
Well, they're going to be doing a couple different things with this. Not only the sports book, but they're also going to be launching a gambling-themed issue of the Sports Illustrated magazine in August.
Okay.
So it's going to be all gambling. This next issue or this upcoming issue.
I'll have to pick it up.
And also, you mentioned the website.
That's going to be like a collector's edition kind of thing.
Probably. But
For me anyway,
you mentioned the website where you use their gambling section.
Yeah.
They're going to be doing more.
Good.
They're going to be launching enhanced and comprehensive coverage of the sports betting space, including in-depth analysis, tools, and widgets.
Okay.
So they're going to be going all in with the sports betting theme, even more than they have already.
Great. No, hey, I read it every week. So it's great.
And they are planning for the SI Sportsbook. I don't know if they're going to, I guess it's going to be SI Sportsbook. It may not be Sports Illustrated Sportsbook. I don't know exactly how they're going to call it. But it's SI. I'm going to use SI Sportsbook. Their first state looks to be Colorado.
Okay. All right.
Seems Colorado is, is like the shooting star here.
Well, me being in New Jersey, I hope they come to New Jersey pretty soon.
Well, they do plan to have New Jersey, Indiana, and Iowa as the next states up for possible launches for the sportsbook.
Good.
So, but again, they're going to start out in Colorado.
Okay, hold that thought. We're going to take a quick break. See you on the other side.
Haven't you heard? We don't need to hide anymore. Now, we can shop privately for adult products at adamandeve.com. They've got massage oils, lingerie, and lots more we can't mention here. Use offer code SPICE404. They'll give you 50% off almost any one item, 3 free DVDs, free mystery gift, and free shipping. That's 50% off, free shipping, and more. Private shopping starts at adamandeve.com.
You're listening to House of Cards.
You are more in need of a night in Atlantic City than any man I've ever met. I'd say sit down at a table, go for dinner, see a show, take a walk on the boardwalk and smell the salt air. But if you're anything like me, nothing after sit down at a table is going to happen.
Welcome back to House of Cards. Dave Weishottle with you here. We are back with executive producer Doug Weishottle to finish up the book report. Doug, what do we got left?
Colorado and their sports betting numbers for May.
Oh, okay. I got to ask. I'm fascinated every time I look at Colorado. How did table tennis do?
Depends on how you read the stats.
Okay. Is it top 10?
It is.
Okay. All right.
If you look at it,
it's usually around 5 or 6.
See, Colorado reports the individual sports, and then they have the other category, the parlays category.
Okay.
Table tennis is set out separately. In a lot of states, table tennis is part of the other.
Okay.
But here in Colorado, table tennis was technically the 4th most bet on sport in terms of handle.
Wow.
They had...
Was something happening in table tennis last month that I don't know about?
They came in with $10.253 million in handle. $10.24 million of it was online.
And this is for
table tennis in Colorado for
May.
This is just May.
Wow.
4.1% of the total handle. Overall, it came in 6 because if you factor in the other category, the parlay category, they had more. But that's like a bucket category. So depending on how you want to read it, but
wow, can you imagine doing a table tennis parlay? I don't.
People
wow.
do that.
Wow, I got to learn more about this sport.
Well, basketball was the top sport, just under 87 million and 85.8 million via online. Let me tell you something right now, before I forget. The total sports betting handle was just under 249 million. One of the few states that had an increase from April, by the way.
Okay.
99% of the total handle came from online.
See, that's interesting because I know everything is opening up. I would think, there'd be a little less online. People are getting out, getting back to the sports books and going to the sports books to eat and drink and watch the games. And I'm surprised 99% is still online.
Well, it's a matter of convenience.
Well, although as I do, even though if I go to a sports book, I still place my bets on my phone when I'm in the sports book. So instead of me getting up and going online, or if I win, I don't have to go back up and collect my money. It already goes into the account. So even if I'm attending or I'm in a sports book, I still place my bets online on my phone.
Well, also it's a factor of how close are these casinos to one another.
Yeah.
If you go down to Atlantic City, you could walk from casino to casino to casino to casino, they're next to each other on the boardwalk, except for Borgata, Golden Nugget, and Harris. Everyone else is on the boardwalk, and they all have sports books.
Mm-hmm.
But again, it's a matter of, if you're sitting in one casino in Cripple Creek, how close is the next casino to you? If you don't want to walk down the street or drive down the street, you take your phone out and start betting online. I mean, it's a matter of convenience as well, too. And with Colorado reporting their handle numbers, 2021's national handle passed $19 billion. That is just an incredible number. And when you look at it from last year's perspective, and again, you got to factor in COVID with 2020 numbers. The national handle of all of last year was $21.5 billion.
Okay.
So we're almost touching the total handle of last year in half a year this year.
Yep.
Operator revenue has also cleared the $4 billion mark in the post-PASPA era after this half year was past year. So it's just kind of, growing and growing and growing.
Oh, absolutely. And the numbers are going to be astronomical in the coming months and the next year. So,
and also the gaming firm Eilers and Krejcik, they released a report, and there was an interesting breakdown of leading sports betting operators.
Okay.
Flutter Entertainment, which is FanDuel, and I believe also at some point Fox Bet's also part of that too. Leading sports betting operator in 5 states: Illinois, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Virginia, and West Virginia. DraftKings, Indiana, Iowa, and New Hampshire, and that makes sense in New Hampshire. They're the only one in New Hampshire. And BetMGM is first in Michigan, Colorado, and Tennessee.
Okay.
The only place William Hill leads, well, actually it's Caesars Entertainment's William Hill, is Nevada.
Okay. All right.
Which still has the in-person requirement.
Okay.
So, at some point, William Hill is going to be Caesar Sports.
Wait, you have to explain that. The in-person requirement means if you sign up, if you start your registration for an online sportsbook in Nevada, you have to finish your registration at the physical sportsbook. So.
Every there's a bunch of different brands out there, but again, they all have the in-person requirement. But I was actually moving to having William Hill when Caesars finishes the acquisition of everything. They're going to be flipping over to Caesar Sports.
Okay.
There won't be a William Hill in the United States. It'll be Caesar Sports.
I find that hard to believe. Unbelievable. William Hill.
I'm assuming they're going to keep some sort of the brand alive in the United States. But
it's such a huge name in sports betting. I'm very curious to see how they're going to do the marketing.
Well, it'll be. They've also said that they're going to try and sell the overseas assets of William Hill. I think 888 mentioned that they were interested in purchasing the William Hill assets, or Bet365, one of the other groups out there that are pretty big over in the UK and overseas.
We'll have to take a look at the stock exchanges for these acquisitions.
Well, hey, you also have some of the ETFs now, too.
Yep.
You know, they've got to take a look at all the indexes. Staying in Colorado, we had the first Superbook Sportsbook retail launch outside Nevada in Colorado.
Wow.
They launched at the Lodge Casino in Blackhawk. That's the other big town for casinos. You have Cripple Creek and Blackhawk. It's their first retail location outside of Nevada, outside of Las Vegas, actually. 7,000 square foot sportsbook, 28 state-of-the-art television screens, 3 betting windows and kiosks located throughout the casino itself. And at the ribbon cutting, they had former Denver Bronco Mark Schlereth.
Oh, okay.
Do the first bet and the ribbon cutting.
All right.
So he bet on the Broncos.
I'm always curious. I love the openings of sports books because I want to see who they have make the first bet and the ribbon cutting. It's always a great time.
Well, again, it's I always like who they get as the local celebrities. You know, I remember one of the ones in Atlantic City had Dr. J there for their opening. I think it was Borgata, wasn't it?
Borgata. I think Borgata had Dr. J. Yeah, the interesting thing was Ocean Resort. Remember that? They had Mark Wahlberg.
Yeah.
Because he has a Wahlburgers in
his
Ocean
burger
Resort.
chain. His burger chain.
Yeah.
Yeah, so and there's going to be more of those coming into casinos. If you like Wahlburgers, I'm not a huge fan of the burgers themselves, but if you like them, 2 other interesting launches that happened. DraftKings. They launched DraftKings Social.
So is this a play money type of thing?
No, this is a community, like a Facebook community, incorporated into the sportsbook.
Oh, okay.
You can actually make friends, interact with certain people, share your bets with other people. They can share their bets with you.
Yeah, I notice BetMGM and also Borgata, when you make a bet on the online sportsbook, they have a button where you can share it to Twitter or share it to Facebook.
A lot of people are getting that, but this is a self-contained.
I've never done that, by the way.
This is a self-contained social community within DraftKings. They launched it for the fantasy site first, then they're going to do the sportsbook and also the online casino.
Okay.
They do not have any plans to do a poker product, they said.
All right.
So I didn't even know DraftKings had any involvement with poker, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I didn't even know that.
No, I did not know that either.
So it was just nice to see it's becoming a little bit more social environment. You can share your bets, all that. So you can actually go back and forth with people with chats.
Great.
So that's one of the things that launched there. Entain. This I found very interesting. If you love virtual reality stuff, this is very interesting. Entain will be launching a virtual reality sports club entertainment experience. That's how they phrased it, for virtual reality.
Now, is this an in-person kind of thing?
This is sitting at home. You put on your Oculus Quest 2
those
headset.
Big thing? Okay, all right.
It's free through the Oculus Quest 2 headset. They're offering it for free.
Those are those big headsets that you put on your face, right?
Yeah,
it's the virtual reality.
I always think when I see those headsets, and it's a horrible thing to think of, you see, I remember the old Flash Gordon movie, all the guys controlling the shield on Ming's Palace with the big glasses on their head, that sort of thing. I always think of Flash Gordon when I see that.
What a cryptic reference. Wow. Everyone's going to have to go back and look at the movie now.
I'm sorry, people, because it was not that great of a movie to begin with, but it was. It just makes me think of about that scene there. But
so you have these things on your face. You have the goggles. I don't know if you call them goggles, but you have the Oculus.
They call it a headset. They call it a headset
on, and you watch these virtual games. Right now, Does it have something to do with betting, or can you actually do betting things?
Well, the hope is they're going to be able to do all that because their initial statement, they're going to be able to have customers live stream football matches, build fantasy lineups, and play a range of different sports games while you're in this sports club virtually.
All right.
So if you're going to be able to build fantasy lineups, you're going to be able to do a parlay lineup or a betting lineup or something like that. But they're going to be doing that. They're going to also have music experiences inside this club. So it's going to be just like going to a sports bar, but virtually.
Okay, all right.
And this is through Verizon Media. They did a deal with them last year to do something like this. And now they're going to be rolling it out later on this year, sometime after August, from what I was reading about, what they're going to be doing there. So a new virtual experience is coming your way for sports fans, not only fantasy, but I would assume sports betting at some point, although they didn't directly mention it. Sport Radar launched a tech setup here, a product, first of its kind, called MBET, E-M-B-E-T.
MBET, okay.
It's a first-of-a-kind product that integrates real-time live sports betting content to an OTT streaming device.
Okay, all right. I have one of those, so I can check it out.
And it features live data, odds, insights, and advertising all in one spot. So this is for the B2B. This is an industry thing. You'll see the end product, but they've launched it for their business partners to incorporate into their OTT devices.
Okay, now I have Roku. If I wanted to check,
don't
this
ask me
out,
that specific question.
You don't know. Okay,
they just launched.
Okay, so it's not. Sport Radar isn't going to have a channel. Sport Radar is going to have business partners where they're going to have Sport Radar.
Right.
This MBET.
This is basically
into its programming. Okay.
This will basically function as a management tool.
Okay, all right.
Where you control everything: your odds feeds, your content feed, and your advertising feed, all in one spot, which I think is an incredible development. It simplifies everything in terms of how you can go about creating live betting through an OTT stream. And I think you might see something like that with Fubo. When they go live with what they're planning on doing, they're trying to do the odds content and the live betting inside the one stream as well.
Yeah.
So
I noticed Fubo TV has an OTT channel.
Yes.
So
yes. But it's, they're beta testing the live betting through their trivia contests.
This
and all
is
that.
Fubo TV.
The Fubo, yeah.
Fubo TV.
Not Fubo.
Why do I
Fubo's
keep
the
saying
apparel.
I keep
Fubo's the
saying
apparel.
that. Fubo TV.
Yeah.
So that's what you're talking about. Okay. Well, that'll do it for us this week on House of Cards. If you're going to one of the newly reopened casinos, poker rooms, or sports books, please be safe. We'll see you next time on House of Cards.
Drag a spotted chain across the desert plain. You build a house of cards around a lover's heart. Wild country.